Commencing transmission. Engaging scramblers. Proxy chain initialized. And now, live from his hidden base at the Earth's core, the future ruler of Earth, Doomcock.
Dragon Age Veilguard is a complete and total failure, my friends. As in, it's hard to see how it could fail any worse than what's happened to it these past 2 weeks. It's Zeppelin ramming into Titanic iceberg Hindenburgian levels of flaming disintegration, the kind that will be looked back on with wide eyes, a shake of the head, and a Seinfeldian,
"Well, good luck with all that."
We're going to cover the many aspects of this disaster in this video, but suffice it to say here at the start, Dragon Age Veilguard is yet another lesson for arrogant game devs who think they can ram DEI agendas down the throats of gamers and not pay a price for it. For, as Harvey Cthulhu says, the wages of woke is broke. And as it turns out, those are the only kind of wages coming in for this title, because an internal leak at BioWare has revealed that Veilguard is not even going to recoup its development expenses. Veilguard is going to lose money, and a lot of it. And with that revelation, all the game reviewers who had lavished Veilguard with praise and glowing reviews started running away from the title like red shirts running away from Vol, issuing new reviews criticizing the game they had once praised. Holy take-backs, Batman! And yet, the final humiliation happened over the weekend, as detailed in an article in Forbes titled, "Dragon Age the Veilguard Endures a Brutal Game Awards Shutout." Quote, 10 years ago, in 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition racked up dozens of Game of the Year awards, including the big one at the Game Awards. Now, in 2024, the next game in the series, Dragon Age The Veilguard, just endured a near-complete absence of nominations for the Game Awards, landing only a single one for accessibility, which is not one of the mainstream prizes. Even as a fan of the game, there's no way to spin this. This is bad for a BioWare attempting to stage a big comeback with higher quality offerings than the past decade, which included the likes of Mass Effect, Andromeda, and Anthem. And this situation is at least a little strange, as the same outlets that are part of the nominating body for the Game Awards scored it pretty well, an 82 on Metacritic, just 3 points below Inquisition's 85. 0 major nominations, unquote.
Well, shit, dude. What happened is once these same outlets saw the leaked sales figures and how badly the game was performing, they jumped off the BioWare ship like rats on a cruise liner headed for a Star Trek Discovery marathon. No thanks, we'll take our chances with the sharks. Gotta go, splash. Funny how critics can change their tune when they realize they've misread the room so badly.
And how, Harvey Cthulhu? To be completely shut out from these award nominations is a final nail in an already well-nailed coffin, folks, for Dragon Age Veilguard includes pronouns and excludes profits, according to an internal company leak that has BioWare extremely upset. A YouTuber named SmashJT revealed game sales figures leaked from inside BioWare, the developer of Dragon Age Veilguard, and these alleged figures paint a very bleak picture for yet another game that put agenda over gameplay. So how bad are these alleged sales figures? Apparently, over the course of its first 2 weeks of release, it barely managed to sell 1 million copies. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? 1 million is a lot. Except that the rumored budget for this game was somewhere in the $250 to $300 million range. Now, given that game companies clear roughly 70 to 80% of the sales price after stores and platforms take their cuts, with a budget in that reported range, you'd need sales to hit somewhere between 4 to 7 million units to break even. Not to profit, just to break even. Given the alleged tepid early figures leaked to SmashJT, it appears that Dragon Age Veilguard is the latest casualty among games that insist on selling not what gamers want, but what these companies want them to want. Always a terrible business model.
Doomcock, these game companies are racking up huge losses with all this DEI crap, and it's impacting game companies much worse than similar failures in Hollywood because of the nature of the industry. Game developers put a lot of time and money into these titles. They're expensive, and gamers just aren't in the mood to be preached to on their dime. And even worse, gamers can't just watch the woke. They have to live it interactively.
For whatever the reasons, Harvey, gamers are hypersensitive to this kind of material, and they're pushing back against it by closing their wallets. So what are the alleged figures leaked by Smash JT? Grums on X summarizes them succinctly, concatenating information gathered from Endymion YT and Real Hypnotic One as well. Grums declares, Dragon Age Veilguard has failed to recover its costs. It has failed, and no, holiday sales won't save it. He then breaks down some of the figures. Quote, concurrent players have dropped off the charts just 2 weeks in, sitting at a peak of 34,068 versus their launch weekend high of 89,418, a 62% drop before the month even closes. Returns are rumored to be 30,000 copies, and the game is being traded in at GameStop so fast that used copies of the game are flooded and being discounted with a trade-in value of only $14 cash. By comparison, Stellar Blade, a much smaller IP and many months older than DAV, is $16.10 cash, which shows you just how bad DAV's value has dropped. Fun fact, Star Wars Outlaws is even worse at just $11.90 cash. Stellar Blade wins again. For those of you who don't know Stellar Blade, it's a delightful game that does not shun the male gaze, it embraces it. In Stellar Blade, you play a gorgeous female character who is extremely feminine and moves realistically, making athletic moves. In other words, as the Big Bopper puts it, she has a wiggle in the walk and a giggle in the talk. They modeled her with realistic jiggle physics, something that the modern anti-sex league hates. They prefer women strapped down, less feminine. And why? You'd have to ask them about this odd rejection of women and femininity, but the results speak for themselves. Those games that give customers what they want, like Stellar Blade, succeed, and those that purposely deny customers what they want fail. Well, that's capitalism for you.
It's just so basic. You don't need a business degree, dude. If your customers are allergic to peanuts, don't give them any damn peanuts. If your audience is allergic to being lectured to about pronouns in a ridiculous sequence where someone has to grovel because they use the wrong pronouns, completely disrupting the reality of this fantasy world you expect your customers to pay money for, then don't annoy them. Jeez, I don't get why this is so hard.
These dev studios need to read the room and fast, because the gamers of the world are on a rampage this year. They are fed up with companies inserting politicized messaging relevant to modern issues in video games, even fantasy games, completely divorced from our reality, because the message must be inserted in everything. Like Ron Jeremy starring in a porn movie. It's just a contractual requirement. Just look at all the games that have been rejected by gamers due to the heavy-handed insertion of intrusive DEI content. Star Wars Outlaws sought to thwart the male gaze and redefine standards of beauty by modifying the female character's model, giving her a Han Solo chin and making her less feminine all around, just to make sure that male gamers aren't happy, which isn't a great business model as it turns out, is it? Concord, a game that featured pronouns in its characters' bios, was such a spectacular failure that Forbes said of it, quote, there is flopping, and there is flopping, and the release of PlayStation's Concord, which has failed to break 700 concurrent players on Steam, with maybe just a few thousand on PlayStation, is one of the worst major failures we've seen in the last generation or more, unquote. It was so bad, Sony closed Firewalk Studio and yanked Concord. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had Harley Quinn methodically humiliating classic DC heroes, executing Batman and not only killing Flash, but pissing on his corpse. It's gotten so bad now, the gamer collective body has bolstered its immunity by generating a woke game list to help gamers who dislike that kind of content to avoid such games, and it appears that one of those games is Dragon Age the Veilguard. How many more games and dev studios will have to fail before they get the message that this kind of content has worn out its welcome? From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.